the other side of the veil. A theoretical explanation for the creation of the physical universe and the principal incident found on all cases that is responsible for the formation of the reactive mind. For with this incident we would have in our possession the first implant ever created, which we were subjected to, ultimately forming the basis of our reactive mind and everything as a result of it after that. The whole entirety of this incident is approximately 100 quadrillion years long, and the sequence is as follows. Between 750 to 800 quadrillion years, all the Tans were compulsively mocking things up in a state of insanity as a result of the Big Bang, creation of the universe via a white hole. With a massive explosion and the feeling of traveling down either a white or black tunnel on which the other side is the universe we find ourselves in now. Between 800 quadrillion, the Big Bang, and 825 quadrillion year ago contains the Emerald City, or City in the Sky, and is a giant space station, city that floats in space. There are numerous advanced humanoid and non-humanoid races, a council of galactic senators, and a decision to put everyone through portals to go to the other side. In any part of this incident or series of events can be a universal basic on a chain, but the keynote is that the last life lived or experienced before the Big Bang is the one that set the standard of all that would follow on up to point. It is what has defined who and what we are now. It has been named this because it is the precursor to incidents 1 and 2, that are run later on the bridge, at OT3. Unlike the other incidents, that are only implants and take place over a short amount of time, this incident is a whole entire series of events that took place over a period of approximately 100 quadrillion years. This series of events began about 850 quadrillion years ago, and in the universe that existed before this one. The whole entire universe was controlled and governed by an intergalactic confederation, headed by 13 senators who resided in the central galaxy of the universe, and were the heads of households of what we consider in this universe to be extraterrestrial lifeforms. There were humanoids, insectoids, reptilians, and avian-based biological lifeforms, with many other subspecies and hybrids in between, with the actual senators themselves being spiritual terrestrials. At the point of approximately 850 quadrillion years ago, the previous universe began to deteriorate and degrade, to the point that it was then dying and on the brink of total destruction. For the next 50 quadrillion years, there were ongoing wars with different factions and divisions struggling over dwindling space and resources. As the intergalactic senators stood by and did nothing, because having obtained ascension, becoming spiritual terrestrials, they had obtained a state in which they could never die, and believed themselves to be immortal and indestructible. With the only survivor being Lord Arrakis, who was the 13th senator and the head of his household. He was also the individual responsible for the technological breakthroughs that made the transition to spiritual terrestrial possible, a process that was closely guarded and only known to the senators themselves. So fast forward to 800 quadrillion years ago, and the whole entire universe had now taken refuge in center of the universe, hoping somehow the senators could do something to save them, in what was a floating or what some refer to as an Emerald City. The senators then came to Lord Arrakis for a solution, as he was the high technologist and the only one left alive, that could potentially save them all. He did come up with a solution to the problem that would have beings sent through time warps, and past the point of the destruction of the prior universe, and into the next one. But the senators wanted to abuse this by only allowing individuals through that fit certain qualifications. With the only downside to utilizing this technology being if an individual was not allowed to go through one of the time warp portals. They would be driven insane as a being in the process of going through the white hole, at the universe's eventual destruction. Having lost all of his own people, Lord Arrakis could not allow this to happen by following their orders and decided to take another action entirely, but was found out before he was able to carry it out and imprison. He had decided that he would detonate an antimatter bomb which would precipitate the white hole they were all trying to avoid, and even though it would drive all the beings insane in the process, they would survive and proceed to the next universe with an equal chance to create and thrive. 12 other beings from the individual households then assisted him by breaking him free from his imprisonment, and fought their way into a high-security area, in order to detonate the previously mentioned antimatter bomb. In conjunction with this, the senators began implanting the lesser citizens under martial law by having them all go into their equivalent of movie theaters, and watching images on the screen while being covertly sprayed with gas that would euthanize them. But Lord Arrakis was successful in his endeavors with the help of his friends, and everything and everyone was then sucked into a giant black hole that turned to a white hole, and spewed everything out the other end, creating what we know as our universe. The exact point a being was at just before being pulled into the Big Bang is the same point at which their reactive mind is formed. 1. Running somebody down into this area with any auditing methodology, Technique 09 is recommended, to the point to where they detach from their reactive mind, will achieve a state of stable clear. 2. If this is not done, a being will mock up a reactive mind again, even if they have already gone clear or beyond on the Scientology bridge. This is the reason why auditing was only so effective in the past, as the electronics phenomena needs to be handled in incidents, for them to completely erase. The 13 senators are alive and well today. Since they no longer have their ruling households, or at least biologically and organically, they control people by what is known as spirituality. 1. And while we can break outside of and overcome some of these constraints, it is only possible to a limited degree unless a very large number of beings are able to break general reality. Which means that if we all do not ultimately make it, then none of us will. Many refer to these other iterations of the same pattern as eternities. The previous universe is the relative beginning of creation as we know it, and is the true story behind all the great philosophies and mystical practices throughout the ages. It is the ultimate truth, salvation, and reason why we find ourselves here currently.